The Galactic Military Academy's central spire pierced the purple sky of Nexus Prime, its impossible architecture a testament to the combined engineering prowess of 17 spacefaring civilizations. In a private chamber near the top, Dean Vexter's crystalline form sparkled with barely contained agitation as he addressed the Academy's High Council. The humans' test scores are impossible, he declared, projecting a holographic display of training results. Cadet James Hudson has exceeded every benchmark we've established. It defies logic. Administrator Zyonx, her serpentine body coiled elegantly around a gravity chair, studied the data with all four of her eyes. Perhaps our metrics require adjustment. Humans are unpredictable. Precisely my concern, Vexter's crystal lattice structure pulsed with deep red light. We cannot properly evaluate what we cannot predict. The Council of Worlds is watching us closely. They want assurance that integrating humans into our military structure is safe. Professor Nyxus, the Academy's combat instructor, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. His species, the Cathal, had fought alongside humans during the Swarm Wars. Safe is relative. I've seen what humans can do when pushed. Their adaptability is their strength. And their greatest threat, countered Dean Vexter. Hudson's combat simulations show patterns we've never seen. He doesn't just win, he changes the rules of engagement. Last week he reprogrammed a training drone mid-exercise. The week before, he taught his squad to use environmental systems as weapons. This is not how our military doctrine works. In the dormitory levels below, unaware of the debate raging above, Cadet James Hudson was methodically maintaining his standard-issue plasma rifle. His roommate, a methane-breathing Valrathi named Kex, watched with fascination through his environmental suit's faceplate. You disassemble weapons every lunar cycle, Kex observed, his translator converting melodic tones into standard Galactic. The maintenance AI handles this task. Hudson's hands never stopped moving as he responded. My old sergeant used to say, know your weapon better than yourself. Besides, AIs can miss things humans catch. Inefficient, declared their other roommate Tilara, a silicon-based crystalloid whose body hummed with computational processes. You sacrifice 2.3 hours of study time monthly for this ritual. Hudson smiled, a gesture that still unnerved many non-human species. Some things are worth the time investment. The chamber's communication panel chimed, displaying an official Academy seal. Cadet James Hudson, report to Assessment Arena Delta at 600 hours tomorrow for special evaluation. Attendance mandatory, survival optional. Tilara's crystalline form flickered with concern. That protocol is reserved for final year challenges. You are a second cycle cadet. Survival optional, Kex's environmental suit vented excess methane, a sign of anxiety in his species. They're activating the apex predator protocols. This is unprecedented. Hudson calmly reassembled his rifle, each piece clicking into place with practiced precision. Unprecedented seems to be becoming standard around here. He checked the time, 2100 hours. Guess I should get some rest. Big day tomorrow. In her private chambers, Administrator Zyonx reviewed classified footage from Earth's military archives. The images showed human special forces adapting and overcoming impossible odds during the Swarm Wars. Their solutions were rarely elegant, often violated established tactical doctrine, but were undeniably effective. You're worried about the wrong thing, Vexter, she muttered to herself. The question isn't whether Hudson will survive tomorrow's test. Her terminal displayed the specially selected apex predators waiting in containment. The question is what his success will mean for the balance of power in the galaxy. As artificial night fell over the Academy, 3 of the most lethal creatures in known space were being prepared for tomorrow's assessment. In his quarters, Hudson slept soundly, his steady heartbeat a rhythm that puzzled the Academy's medical monitors. The calm before the storm, as humans would say. The next morning, Hudson arrived at Assessment Arena Delta precisely on time, wearing standard cadet armor and carrying only his plasma rifle and combat knife. The observation deck above was packed with faculty and senior students, all eager to witness what many believed would be a short and instructive demonstration of human limitations. Dean Vexter's voice echoed through the chamber. Cadet Hudson, you will face 3 apex predators in succession. Your goal is survival and neutralization of the threats. Do you understand? Hudson checked his weapon's charge one final time. Clear on the objectives, sir. Rules of engagement. Whatever it takes to survive, Cadet. Was that anticipation in the dean's tone? The first challenge approaches, prepare yourself. The arena's environment shifted, transforming into a perfect recreation of the crystal forests of Epsilon Void, home to one of the most efficient killing machines in the galaxy. Hudson took a deep breath, squared his shoulders, and stepped forward into the glittering darkness. The test had begun, and with it, a chain of events that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of humanity's potential for better or worse. The crystal forest of Epsilon Void shimmered with deadly beauty. Massive crystalline formations caught and reflected light in unpredictable patterns, creating a maze of shadows and brilliant flares. In the observation deck, the assembled faculty watched as Hudson moved with deliberate caution through this lethal environment. The Void Stalker has already sensed him, Professor Nyxus commented, his mandibles twitching as he tracked the predator's heat signature on the monitors. It's curious, most prey species trigger an immediate attack. The Void Stalker was a marvel of evolution, a creature made almost entirely of living crystal that could bend light around itself. Its neural structure was so alien that even the most advanced telepaths couldn't detect its presence. Right now, it was studying Hudson with 12-faceted eyes, trying to understand this new prey. Hudson stopped near a particularly large crystal formation, his back to a solid surface. To the observers, it looked like basic tactical positioning. To Hudson, it was something else entirely. "What is the human doing?" Dean Vexler demanded as Hudson began to tap his rifle against the crystal behind him in an odd pattern. Professor Nyxus leaned forward, suddenly alert. He's using the crystal resonance. The formations, they're all connected at the base. Before he could finish, Hudson's rhythmic tapping had created a cascading harmonic through the crystal forest. The Void Stalker, whose sensory organs were attuned to the most subtle vibrations, suddenly found its entire environment screaming with discordant frequencies. Impossible, Dean Vexler's crystalline form vibrated in sympathy with the resonance. He's weaponized the environment itself. The Void Stalker revealed itself, its perfect camouflage disrupted by the sonic assault. It was beautiful and terrifying, a 12-meter predator that looked like living diamond, with limbs that could slice through battleship armor. It lunged at Hudson with devastating speed. But Hudson was already moving. He'd used the resonance not just to disorient the creature, but to map the battlefield. Each crystal formation rang with a slightly different tone, creating an acoustic picture of his surroundings. As the Void Stalker struck, Hudson rolled beneath its crystalline blades, firing his plasma rifle at precise angles. "His shots are missing," Administrator Zylx observed, all four eyes narrowed. "No," Professor Nyxus corrected, "they're reflecting." Hudson's plasma bolts bounced off carefully chosen crystal surfaces, creating a web of energy that caught the Void Stalker in a crossfire of its own refracted light. The creature's crystalline body, evolved to channel and redirect energy, absorbed too much heat too quickly. Stress fractures appeared along its central mass. With a sound like shattering glass, the mighty predator exploded into 1,000 glittering shards. Hudson was already moving, using his armor's shields to deflect the razor-sharp fragments. "First challenge complete," Hudson reported calmly, though his heart rate monitor showed elevated levels. "Ready for the next round." The arena shifted again, this time transforming into the upper atmosphere of a gas giant. Gravitational platforms materialized, creating an artificial archipelago among the clouds. Thunder rolled across the digital sky as something massive moved. Within the storm banks. The storm Leviathan, Administrator Zylx announced, her serpentine form coiling tighter with anticipation. Even the Void Stalker feared these creatures. Storm Leviathans were living hurricanes with physical forms, capable of manipulating atmospheric pressure and electrical charges. They were thought to be semi-sentient, and no two encounters with them were ever the same. The one now emerging from the clouds was over 50 meters long, its body a swirling mass of dense gases and crackling energy. Hudson checked his rifle's charge, 60% remaining. His armor had taken some damage from the crystal shards. This would require a different approach entirely. "Fascinating," Tilara commented from the student observation area. "His vital signs indicate not fear but problem-solving engagement." Kex released another worried methane burst. "He's smiling again. Why does he smile before doing something terrifying?" The storm Leviathan roared, a sound that shook the very air. Lightning arced between the floating platforms as it began to circle its prey. Hudson studied its movement patterns, noting how it used the electrical differentials in the atmosphere. The human will attempt retreat, Dean Vexler predicted. No species has ever defeated a storm leviathan in direct combat. Hudson's voice came clearly through the comm system. Request permission to access my personal equipment storage. The faculty exchanged glances. It was an unusual request, but technically within the rules. Administrator Xilinx gave her approval, and a small storage unit materialized on Hudson's platform. What could he possibly have that would? Dean Vexler's question died as Hudson pulled out what appeared to be a primitive metal rod. Is that a lightning rod? Professor Nyxus asked incredulously. From Earth. Hudson planted the rod firmly on his platform and began to move, jumping from platform to platform in what seemed like a random pattern. The storm leviathan followed, gathering energy for a massive discharge. He's going to get himself killed, someone muttered. But Hudson was creating something, a pattern of conductive metal rods across the platforms, connected by thin wire from his storage unit. As the storm leviathan rose to its full height, preparing to unleash its full power, Hudson completed his circuit. Hey big guy, he called out, his voice carrying across the artificial sky. Let's talk about the path of least resistance. The storm leviathan struck, releasing enough electrical energy to power a small city. But Hudson had created something the creature had never encountered, a deliberate pattern of conductive paths that turned its own energy against it. The massive discharge followed Hudson's carefully laid network, creating a feedback loop that the leviathan couldn't escape. With a final thunderous roar, the creature dispersed, its cohesive form disrupted by its own power. The artificial storm clouds cleared, revealing Hudson standing calmly amid his improvised lightning array. Second challenge complete, he reported, though I'm going to need a new set of tools. In the observation deck, silence reigned. Then Professor Nyxus clicked his mandibles in what might have been admiration. He didn't just defeat them, he used their own natures against them. The final challenge remains, Administrator Xilinx reminded everyone, and the Mindshooter, it won't be fooled by simple physics. As the arena began its final transformation, Hudson took a moment to check his equipment. 2 down, 1 to go, but everyone watching knew the real test was only just beginning. The arena transformed one final time, but instead of an exotic environment, it became something far more unsettling, a perfect void. The floor beneath Hudson's feet turned pitch black, indistinguishable from the walls and ceiling. Even the air seemed to absorb light rather than transmit it. In the observation deck, Administrator Xilinx's scales rippled with concern. Perhaps we should reconsider this final challenge, the Mindshooter. Is exactly what we need, Dean Vexler interrupted, his crystalline form pulsing with dark satisfaction. The human has shown impressive physical adaptability, yes, but the mind, that's where we'll find the truth about their species. Professor Nyxus shifted uncomfortably. You do realize that the last 3 beings to face a Mindshooter never recovered, 2 committed suicide, and the third is still in psychiatric stasis. Down in the void, Hudson felt the first brush against his consciousness like ice-cold fingers sliding across his brain. The Mindshooter was ancient, one of the last survivors of a race that had evolved pure psychic ability at the cost of physical form. It existed now as pure thought, a predator of minds rather than bodies. Cadet Hudson, Dean Vexler's voice echoed in the darkness. Your final challenge is survival, 10 minutes with the Mindshooter, no weapons will help you here. Hudson's vital signs were being monitored closely. His heart rate had increased, but not dramatically. If anything, he seemed almost preternaturally calm. Subject is experiencing initial psychic contact, Tilara reported from her monitoring station. Neural patterns are unusual. The first real attack came like a tidal wave of terror, the Mindshooter launching a full assault of pure distilled fear. In the observation deck, they watched Hudson drop to one knee, his body trembling. And so it begins, Dean Vexler commented. No mind can withstand. He stopped as Hudson started laughing. It wasn't hysterical laughter or the broken sound of a mind snapping. It was genuine amusement echoing through the void. The Mindshooter, for the first time in its ancient existence, felt confusion. Sorry, Hudson's voice was steady. But fear, really. I was expecting something more sophisticated from a being of pure thought. The next attack was deeper targeted trauma, pulling from Hudson's own memories. The void filled with ghostly images, battles, losses, the horrors of the swarm wars. But instead of breaking under the onslaught, Hudson's neural patterns showed increasing focus. Remarkable, Professor Nyxus murmured. He's not fighting the psychic attack, he's accepting it. More than that, Administrator Xylunx leaned forward, all four eyes wide. Look at his neural pattern, it's changing. In the void, Hudson had settled into a cross-legged position, his breathing steady. You know what humans are really good at, he spoke conversationally to the darkness. Pattern recognition and adaptation, and right now I'm recognizing your patterns. The Mindshredder launched another assault, trying to shred Hudson's sense of self. But something unprecedented was happening. Hudson's mind wasn't breaking, it was learning. Neural synchronization detected, Tilara announced, her crystalline form flickering with excitement. The human is mimicking the Mindshredder's psychic frequency. Impossible, Dean Vexler's form shattered and reformed in agitation. Humans are not psychic. No, Professor Nyxus agreed, but they are adaptable. And right now, Cadet Hudson is adapting to psychic attack by learning how to be psychic, Administrator Xylunx finished, her voice filled with wonder. In the void, Hudson opened his eyes. They glowed with an inner light that shouldn't have been possible. When he spoke, his voice carried new harmonics. Let's talk about mutually assured destruction. The Mindshredder recoiled, feeling something it hadn't experienced in millennia, fear of its own. Hudson's consciousness had become a mirror, reflecting every attack back at its source. More than that, he was improvising, creating new patterns from the ones he'd learned. Neural link established, Tilara reported. Bidirectional psychic connection confirmed. The human he's accessing the Mindshredder's memories. Ancient knowledge flooded through Hudson's mind, the rise and fall of civilizations, the evolution of thought, the very nature of consciousness itself. But unlike the Mindshredder's previous victims, his sense of self remained intact, anchored by something the ancient being couldn't understand. That's enough, Administrator Xylunx commanded, end the trial. But it was too late. The void erupted with psychic energy as Hudson launched his own attack, not with fear or pain, but with something uniquely human. He shared hope, determination, the sheer, stubborn will to survive and thrive against all odds, concepts so foreign to the Mindshredder's ancient, cynical consciousness that they acted like a psychic virus. The void shattered. The Mindshredder, overwhelmed by alien emotions and unfamiliar thought patterns, retreated to the deepest recesses of its containment unit. Hudson stood slowly, his eyes returning to normal, though something about his gaze remained forever changed. Third challenge complete, he reported, then added with a slight smile, though I think we both learned something new. In the stunned silence of the observation deck, Professor Nyxus turned to Dean Vexler, still worried about human unpredictability. No, the Dean's crystalline form had paled to nearly white. Now I'm terrified of it. Administrator Xylunx slithered from her chair, all four eyes fixed on Hudson's vital signs. The Council of Worlds must be informed immediately. This changes everything. Why? Professor Nyxus asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Because, she replied, we just watched a human adapt to psychic attack by developing psychic abilities. If they can do that in 10 minutes of exposure, what else are they capable of? As the faculty argued above, Hudson collected his equipment, his mind still buzzing with new awareness. He could feel the thoughts and emotions of everyone in the observation deck: fear, amazement, calculation, and underneath it all, a growing realization that humanity might be more than anyone had imagined. The test was over, but something much bigger had just begun. The emergency session of the Academy's High Council convened in a chamber of living crystal, its walls designed to block all forms of surveillance. Yet somehow, everyone felt Hudson's newly awakened psychic presence lingering at the edges of their consciousness, a reminder of how drastically things had changed. The Isolation faction will use this as proof. Administrator Xylunx projected a hologram of incoming messages from the Council of Worlds. They'll say we've created exactly what they feared: a human weapon. Dean Vexler's crystalline form had darkened to a deep, troubled amber. That was the point, wasn't it? To prove humans were too dangerous for integration. He turned to face the others. Or did you think I chose those specific predators at random? Professor Nyxus clicked his mandibles in growing anger. Explain yourself, Dean. The test was designed to fail spectacularly, Vexler admitted. The Void Stalker to demonstrate their physical threat, the Storm Leviathan to show their technological devastation. And the Mindshooter, he paused, his crystal structure dimming. The Mindshooter was supposed to break him, prove that humans lack the mental discipline for advanced galactic society. In the medical wing, Hudson sat perfectly still as doctors of various species examined him. His new abilities were stabilizing, but their nature defied conventional xenobiology. Dr. Krell, a gaseous being of pure energy contained in an environmental suit, hovered nearby taking readings. Fascinating, Krell's voice emerged as modulated frequencies. Your neural architecture is rewriting itself, integrating the psychic patterns you absorbed, but instead of overwhelming your original consciousness, it's enhancing it. Hudson could feel the doctor's scientific excitement mixing with underlying concern. More importantly, he could sense the hidden surveillance devices in the room, installed by at least 3 different factions. Just like the Mindshooter showed me, he said carefully, it's all about patterns. Meanwhile, in their dormitory, Kex and Tilara were piecing together a disturbing puzzle. Access granted, Tilara announced, her crystalline form glowing as she hacked into sealed records. The Dean's communication logs confirm it. This wasn't just a test, it was a political maneuver. Kex released a worried burst of methane. The timing matches. The Council of Worlds votes on full human integration next month. A human cadet suffering catastrophic psychological breakdown during an assessment would have justified immediate suspension of all human military programs, Tilara completed. But they didn't account for Hudson's adaptability. Back in the council chamber, the debate had turned heated. Do you understand what you've done? Administrator Xilinx's scales were practically vibrating with rage. You didn't just fail to prove humans are too dangerous, you've proven they're far more capable than anyone imagined. The isolation faction will still oppose integration, Vexter argued. A species that can develop psychic abilities through mere exposure. They'll say it proves humans are too unpredictable, too adaptable to be trusted. They're right, a new voice interrupted. Everyone turned to see Hudson standing in the doorway. Nobody had heard him enter, yet somehow it felt like he'd been there all along. We are unpredictable, we are adaptable. That's not a bug in our programming, it's the feature that kept us alive. Professor Nyxis rose to his full height. How did you access this chamber? The same way I accessed the sealed files about this test's true purpose, Hudson replied calmly, pattern recognition. Once you understand the patterns of thought, the patterns of security systems aren't that different. He walked to the center of the chamber and everyone felt the subtle pressure of his newly awakened abilities, not threatening but present. You wanted to prove humans are dangerous, mission accomplished. But you proved something else too, we're really good at surviving your tests and learning from them. The holographic displays suddenly activated, showing transmission feeds from across the galaxy. Hudson smiled slightly. By the way, this session is being broadcast to every major world in the Alliance. My roommates are surprisingly good at signal distribution. Dean Vexler's form nearly shattered in shock. You can't. Already did, Hudson interrupted. The Council of Worlds gets to see exactly why this test was arranged and exactly how it backfired. Transparency, another human trait you might want to consider adopting. Administrator Xilinx's scales shifted to a pattern indicating reluctant admiration. You realize this will cause a political firestorm. Good, Hudson replied. Because now everyone has to deal with the real question. Are you more afraid of what humans might become or what you'll miss out on by trying to keep us isolated? He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Dean, the Mindshooter says hello. We've been having some fascinating conversations about the nature of consciousness. Turns out it's never too late to learn new patterns. As Hudson left the chamber, the council members sat in stunned silence, watching their carefully laid plans crumble. On screens across the galaxy, the truth was spreading. The political landscape was shifting. And in the background of it all, they could feel the weight of human potential not as a threat, but as an unstoppable force for change. The test had been designed to prove humans were too dangerous for the galaxy. Instead, it had proven the galaxy might not be ready for humans. But ready or not, change was coming. The only question was who would adapt first. 1 month after the broadcast that shook the galaxy, the Grand Chamber of the Council of Worlds hummed with tense energy. Representatives from over 1,000 species filled the vast amphitheater, their minds a kaleidoscope of thoughts that Hudson could now sense clearly. Fear, curiosity, anticipation, and underneath it all, a grudging recognition that the universe had changed. The Mindshooter, officially named Ambassador Cathal after choosing to emerge from its millennia of isolation, hovered beside Hudson as they prepared to address the council. Their unique mental connection had evolved into something unprecedented, a bridge between ancient wisdom and human innovation. They fear what we represent, Cathal's thoughts resonated in Hudson's mind. The old ones especially, change is uncomfortable for beings who measure their lives in epochs. Hudson adjusted his formal uniform, now bearing the new insignia of Earth's diplomatic corps. Change is life, he responded silently. Sometimes the universe needs a shake-up. In the gallery, Kex and Tilara sat with a delegation of Academy students. The exposure of the failed plot had sparked a revolution among the younger generation of various species. They had formed an integration initiative, promoting cross-species cooperation and exchange of knowledge. The human's heart rate is elevated, Tilara observed, her crystalline form analyzing Hudson's vital signs. Yet his psychic output remains stable. Kex released an amused puff of methane. He's about to rewrite galactic law. A little nervous energy is warranted. The chamber fell silent as Supreme Counselor Vexra, Dean Vexther's predecessor and genetic progenitor, rose to speak. We have convened to address the integration of humanity into the Galactic Alliance in light of recent developments. Their crystalline form sparkled with careful neutrality. Cadet Hudson, you may present your case. Hudson stepped forward, and everyone in the chamber felt the gentle touch of his mind, not invasive, but inviting. Through their shared consciousness, Cathal added depths of wisdom to Hudson's words, creating a harmony of thought that many found surprisingly comfortable. A month ago, I was subjected to a test designed to prove humans were too dangerous for this alliance, Hudson began. Instead, it proved something else entirely, that the greatest danger lies not in our differences, but in our fear of them. He projected memories of the challenges, shared not just visually but experientially. The council members felt his tactical adaptation against the Void Stalker, his innovative response to the Storm Leviathan, and most importantly, the transformative encounter with the Mindshooter. Look at what we achieved in failure, Hudson continued. When the test meant to break me instead forged a connection with one of your most ancient beings. Cathal and I represent what's possible when we stop fearing potential and start embracing it. The Isolation faction's leader, a plasma-based entity named Zorax, flared with objection. You prove our point. A species that can spontaneously develop abilities through mere exposure. You are unpredictable, uncontrollable. Exactly, Hudson interrupted, earning gasps from the traditionalists. We are unpredictable, we do adapt, and that's exactly what this alliance needs. Cathal's presence expanded, sharing memories of countless civilizations that had risen and fallen. I have watched for eons as societies stagnated in their fear of change. The humans offer something unique, not just adaptation, but guided evolution, the ability to grow without losing their essential nature. In the gallery, Administrator Xylunx watched with all four eyes gleaming. The political landscape was shifting beneath everyone's feet, and for once she was glad to be on the side of change. We propose a new framework, Hudson announced. Not just human integration, but a complete overhaul of how we approach diversity in the Alliance. The Academy will become a true exchange of knowledge, every species teaching, learning, growing together. He gestured to the student delegation. Look at what's already happening. In 1 month, we've seen breakthroughs in cross-species communication, hybrid technology development, and even the beginnings of shared consciousness training. This is just the start. The chamber erupted in discussion, thousands of minds processing the implications. Hudson and Cathal stood together, their combined presence a living demonstration of what was possible. Supreme Counselor Vexra raised their crystalline limbs for silence. We have heard much about human potential for danger. Perhaps it is time we considered their potential for growth, not just their own, but ours as well. The voting process was unprecedented for the first time. It included a psychic component, allowing for the true sharing of perspectives across species barriers. When the final tally was announced, even the Isolation faction couldn't deny the overwhelming mandate for change. As the chamber emptied, Professor Nyxus approached Hudson with clicking mandibles that indicated amusement. Not bad for a cadet who was supposed to fail spectacularly. Hudson smiled, feeling the ripples of change spreading across the galaxy. Maybe that's humanity's real gift to the Alliance, turning failure into evolution. In the following weeks, the Academy transformed. New protocols were established, emphasizing cooperation over competition. The former Dean Vexter, humbled but adapting, became a leading researcher in human adaptive capabilities. The Mindshooter Ambassador Cathal established the first psychic exchange program, teaching both humans and other species to explore consciousness in new ways. And in his quiet moments, Hudson would stand at the Academy's highest point, looking out at the purple sky of Nexus Prime, feeling the thoughts and dreams of 1,000 species reaching for a future none of them had imagined possible. The test had been meant to prove humans didn't belong among the stars. Instead, it proved that the stars had been waiting for humanity all along, not as conquerors or subjects, but as catalysts for change in a galaxy that had forgotten how to evolve. The real test, it seemed, had only just begun.